Welcome back everyone. Today we are going to be talking about how we can use Puddle pack inside of Cinema 4D and physical render engine. So let's see. So the first thing we're going to do is take up simple plane and let's make the height and width to somewhere around 1000. That's it. And the divisions will be somewhere around like 100 and 100. And the reason we are doing this is since we are working without any third-party plugin, we have to manage everything inside of our single, or you can say native render. So we have to keep segments pretty high. So the way we are going to do this is instead of making high subdivisions inside of your plane, we are going to using a subdivision surface, and in the subdivision surface we are going to make the subdivision editor to 0, just so we don't have to see the subdivision inside of our editor, only in the render engine. So let's make this a child of subdivision, and that's it. So now we have subdivided our plane into multiple divisions instead of just making our plane pretty high res. So now we can always go back and change any type of resolution we want. If you want high poly, we can always go back somewhere like 4, and if you want pretty low poly, we can always go back to 1 or pretty much 2, somewhere like this. So let's connect our nodes to create the material. Now I'm going to go to create. Let's go to material and select node material and drop it on your plane. Open this up and make this big. So this is where all the magic is going to happen. This is your node editor. So the first thing you see is your material, right? And the first channel that you see is diffuse. So this is your assets. You can pretty much browse through different kinds of nodes from here. Now the first thing we're going to do is simply drag and drop your images right inside of your node editor. So I've dropped my images inside of my node editor, and the first thing we're going to connect is the diffuse map. So let's connect this to the diffuse color, and instantly you can see that we have created our color map. Now let's move on. So the next thing we're going to connect is the normal map, and to connect the normal map there are a couple of ways that you can do this. Either you can click over here, either you can select the result and drop it on your normal, either you can also go to your material and you can check on this normal, and this will ask you a couple of options, and you can simply say connect the node to the existing node, which is my normal map. This will also connect you to the normal map, but instead of doing this, the best method is obviously going to your surface and selecting a normal map and making the result to the normal and drive this to the normal map. Now it will work perfectly. So the next thing we have to do is doing the same thing with a displacement map. So let's take a displacement map, attach a result to the value and the result to the displacement. Perfect. Now for the last roughness map, let me just move this down. We have to go to the main material and simply hit add a surface, and let's select a BSDF material. Now here you'll see one more diffuse channel, and instead of making this diffuse channel, we are going to change the BSDF type to GGX, which is a reflection type, and select the result to the roughness. Perfect. So the last thing we have to do is change the Fresnel to dielectric. Now let's see how this is working out. All right, I think it's looking pretty good. What you can also do is turn on a little bit of options of different type of tessellation as well. So let's take a physical sky to see how this is looking, and I'm going to take a camera. Let's make this portrait, and let's get inside over here, and let's hit render. And before hitting render, let's change the render engine to physical, and also take something like ambient occlusion, or you can also take a global illumination if you want a pretty high res result. And GI and ambient occlusion will give you pretty interesting results, so definitely check them on before rendering the final result. So as you can see, the material is looking really good. You can test this material with different kinds of angle to see which is working perfectly for you. Alright, from here you can pretty much create anything and create an interesting result. I'm just going to take a sphere as a demonstration what you can pretty much do with this. So let's bring this up. Let's make this 20, and I'm going to turn off the physical sun and sky for now. Let's take MoGraph cloner. Let's drop this sphere And let's make this grid. Let's make this 3 3 3, and let's make this somewhere like 50 maybe. Sorry. Okay, and let's make this 6. All right, so pretty big. And actually I'm going to reduce the size of these spheres and the cloner as well. So I'm going to make this 30 30 and 30, and I think this is looking good enough. Let's make this 20. Okay, so once you're done with this, what you can do is simply select your cloner and go to effector and select a shader. In the shader, make sure you turn off your position if the position is on, and make this -0.9. And now here you'll see all the spheres have pretty much gotten smaller. And the way to fix this is simply going to the shading and select a noise. In the noise, go inside and just change the brightness level somewhere around like 65, and also the contrast. Let's keep the contrast to 0. And what here you can do is change this value to somewhere like 10 and change the seeds. And let's change the contrast value to somewhere like this. Let's make this back to default, and I'm going to increase the value of my contrast, and let's increase a little bit of brightness as well. So now we are getting something like this. Let's make this 100. Okay, so I think I'm pretty much happy with this. Maybe somewhere like this. Yeah, so let's select the sphere. I'm going to change this to hexahedron and make this 50. All right, I'm going to select a new null and drop this inside of a null, and let's bring this down and somewhere around like this, and let's change the scale to like this. Okay, so let's set the view. And the last thing I'm going to do is go to your render settings, and inside of physical check on this depth of field, and in your camera select the focus distance on your object and change the physical type to somewhere like 1 or maybe like 0.5, and make sure your depth of field is turned on, just so you can see the depth of field inside of your viewport. And now you can see it's pretty strong. So let's render this now. So as you can see, we have created pretty amazing result with just a simple of steps, and the puddles are giving quite a good result. You can always go back, and I'm just going to change this to somewhere like 0.5, and maybe change this position of this now to somewhere like this, and I'm going to just pretty much zoom in like this and change the focus distance to somewhere like this maybe, and let's render again. So the render is looking really good. As you can see, the scene is pretty much grainy, just a little bit because of the depth of field. And if you want to get rid of this grain, all you have to do is go to your render settings and just change the physical type sampling quality to high instead of medium, and this will just increase the render time, but also give you a pretty good result. If you want more displacement in your maps, what you can do is go back inside of your material and go to displacement, and here you have strength and everything, which will pretty much control the overall strength of your displacement. You can also control the displacement strength from here, which is 10. You can also make this 1, or you can make this 20. Totally depends on you. So have fun creating something like this and using the Puddle pack, and if you do create something out of it, definitely show me on Instagram or somewhere. I love to see your work, and that's it. So thank you for watching.